back, everybody, to the Cold Popture podcast, where we get together a couple of dudes, a few dudes.
A gaggle of dudes.
Okay, well, pick one in the edit there, Richard, and don't be biased, pick the best one.
What did you say, Richard?
I said a gaggle of dudes.
I said a clutch. So
They're both very good.
Probably gonna go with mine.
A grasp of dudes.
But I'll bleep Jeremy so you can't even hear mine.
A desperation of dudes.
You're hearing the voice of Richard and Jeremy, and I'm AJ, though, hilariously, a little joke for the podcasters and not for the audience whatsoever this episode, to confuse the AI companion that summarizes all of our episodes. We're all named AJ. Richard's called the real AJ, so we'll see if the AI is truly artificially intelligent enough to pick up on what I'm saying now and use this context to work out that the real AJ is Richard and the AJ that is not me is Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. Great to hear from you.
This presumably also confusing for new listeners, but
Sorry,
have we really explained
I am indeed
that?
actually Jeremy.
And I'm Richard. Have we, also known as the real AJ, has anyone ever, have we actually explained the AI companion thing in the Zoom call on pod?
So when you have a Zoom call, you can tick a box now that's an AI companion, and when the call hangs up, it emails you a very approximate summary of the conversation you've just had, often getting a lot of information wrong, but in a way that's kind of inspiring. Like, yeah, maybe we should make a movie that is vaguely the thing that you tried to...
Well, or like last week when, in the first part of this where we spoke about the Mangoes movie. The Mangoes musical, sorry. And I was reading through it and I was like, what? That was the Mean Girls musical.
Yeah. So this is, of course, part 2 of our look forward ahead at 2024. This is every movie we will watch in 2024, part 2. Though, should we be a bit cheeky, Richard? Because one of the movies, actually the first movie, and indeed the movie you just mentioned in part 1, has now been seen by 2 out of 3 of us.
We shouldn't be cheeky.
But not, I would say, the most important one of us.
No.
The one who would go on about it the most hasn't seen it.
Thank God I haven't seen it.
We're talking, of course, about Mean Girls, the musical, which I want to get something out. Jeremy, do you know the musical at all, at the stage show?
I listened to the cast recording when it first came out, but I could not remember a single thing about it now.
Do you remember what your initial impressions were of that cast recording?
There's a reason I haven't listened to it again. Let's just say that.
It's such an uneventful musical. It's got nothing to offer in the musical department. It's just a worse version of the 2004 Mean Girls with average songs slipped in there. That's my take.
This is the issue with a movie that then gets turned into a musical. I mean, I think you all would have heard of the sort of attribute that a musical works when, basically when a character has too much emotion to speak, they burst into song, and then when they have too much emotion to fit into a song, they burst into dancing. And
I just don't think that Katie from Mean Girls having a crush on the dude sitting in front of her warrants a song. I don't think that's a significant enough part of the movie to be like, we'll turn that one into a song.
And that's the thing, is that when you're writing a musical, you have to write story beats and character arcs that contain those kind of leaps of emotion, or the sort of, you get the I Want song and stuff like that. When you've already got the full flow of plot and, where a movie's going and what the characters do from a movie that was written with characters who don't have so much emotion that they want to burst into song, then retconning songs into those story beats just doesn't feel right. It's a huge challenge to get right.
Can I just say?
Yeah, anyway, Richard loved it. So
can we move on,
to
please?
July.
I don't want to talk about this at all. We're 5 minutes into the podcast. You wasted time talking about the Mangoes musical, and we wanted to try and keep this short. But you're like, oh, let's break format, and you're not cutting me off. I'm cutting you off.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, hold on, Richard. You're complaining about someone breaking format?
I was going to say that.
Cue AJ and I listening to the pod that we'd recorded last week, and all of a sudden, Richard's like, actually, I have some thoughts that I'd like to insert here as I'm editing that warrant
was about the
me coming
Mangoes
in.
musical as well.
Okay, let's... Well, first of all, I've established Editor Richard's little asides as part of the format, so I'm not breaking format by doing that. And also, that was like 8 seconds max, because I moved the edit and I was like, oh, I'll put a gap here, and then recorded it straight into Premiere. So I actually had the time frame to be like, oh shit, I need to wrap this up really quickly.
That's really good practice and should be adopted for all our podcasts, I think, because there's just a hard stop recording time.
Yeah. Hey, Richard here in the edit booth. Just wanted to also add, get fucked, Jeremy. Alright, anyway, Despicable Me 4 comes out in July. There was a trailer for this just in the last week, where Gru has a kid now, and everyone's like, don't think about Gru fucking.
Gru has a kid.
Yeah.
Feels like a kind of like slap in the face on the very conceit of Despicable Me, that he gets given children.
Yeah.
If he's having his own kid, what is these other kids?
Like, the whole
for?
thing was based on the fact that his penis doesn't work.
And that he is indeed despicable.
Yeah, that's why he had to make his little minions, his little sex toys.
He's like ugly Wonka.
Yeah, the minions are like ugly Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, so yeah, there's Gru Jr., who's intent on tormenting his dad. And
Grunya.
yeah. Are you guys, like, Despicable Me is what is... It's a surprisingly, like, large franchise in terms of money and stuff, but I've only seen the first one and Minions 2. It's one that I just haven't kept up with, weirdly.
I've only seen the first one.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like what we were saying about the Kung Fu Panda franchise.
It's very Kung Fu Panda, yeah.
Tapping into a nostalgia for a childhood animation that came out well after any of us were in childhood. So this is officially not part of our zeitgeist. But hey, you know, for those who enjoy that sort of thing, that is the sort of thing they enjoy, and more power to them.
Yeah. So in July,
thank you, Jeremy.
there
All
was...
the 10-year-olds in our listenership will be grateful that you looked out for them there.
I affirm you and your life choices.
So a trailer dropped a little while ago for American Dream, the 21 Savage story about the rapper 21 Savage. It had Donald Glover playing, I think 2 different actors playing him at different times in his life. And there was kind of like, oh, is this like a TV show? Is this a movie? Turns out it's neither. It was just a joke trailer, so we can move on. But it was like, this was on the Wikipedia list of every film coming out this year. So there's a film called Project
What a
Artemis.
funny joke. There's going to be a biopic about a rapper. Just kidding. Hilarious.
I just saw that he's actually going to be on SNL as the musical guest next week.
Wow. So yeah, there's a Project Artemis, and rom-com space film. It's set during the space race. Scarlett Johansson, Channing Tatum, Jim Rash, Ray Romano, Woody Harrelson.
Oh my god.
Fun cast.
I really hope that the rom-com is actually between Jim Rash and Scarlett Johansson. Like that'd be like, it's advertised with Channing Tatum, and it turns out Channing Tatum's like Scarlett Johansson's gay best friend. Like,
yeah, it's directed by Greg Berlanti, who did Love, Simon and Life as We Know It. So yeah, I think it's the Wikipedia page is called Project Artemis, but then it's like untitled space rom-com, so it might get a different name. Another film coming out that's cashing in on nostalgia for something I don't have nostalgia for is Twisters, the sequel to Twister from 1996, which is a film. It was like one of the highest grossing films of 1996, but it's...
Does it have Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt in it?
Bill Paxton's dead, isn't he?
Is he?
A simple no
Bill
would have
Paxton.
sufficed, Richard.
Well, I can't remember which one's Bill Pullman and which one's Bill Paxton, so
Bill
Bill
Pullman's
Pullman
in
is
Casper.
Independence Day. Bill Paxton is Twister.
Bill Paxton's on
And-
Independence Day, isn't he?
No.
Bill Paxton's is Game Over,
Game Over,
Man,
Man,
from isn't this a great example of a nostalgia bait legacy sequel which has
Bill
come
Paxton is in Independence Day. No, it's not. What? If you search Bill Paxton Independence Day, it's like, yeah, he's in it.
one of the Bill P's,
Yeah.
isn't it? Is it like I feel like, what would you guys say was the first or one of the first big nostalgia legacy sequels. Like
Return to Oz.
Okay. Yeah, I remember how excited I was for Return to Oz when that came out. Let's say something like Kingdom of the
Well,
Crystal.
let's just say it was the one that I thought of anyway.
I don't even know what Return to Oz is. What are you?
Where they go back to
Fine,
Oz.
let's
Sequel
talk
to
about
Wizard of
Return
Oz.
to Oz.
You
Yeah.
absolute pop culture noob.
I know it's a sequel to Wizard of Oz. I didn't know.
Right, well, you just claimed that you
You
didn't
literally
know what it
just
was.
said, I don't even know what it is.
I worked out from context clues. Who gives a fuck what I know about Wizard of Oz? The let's say Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, right? Like the reason people show up for that is like, oh, Harrison Ford's back. It's the return to this great thing. Not only does Twister feel like an IP that is just sunk to the bottom of the depths of the zeitgeist, it's also like the lead actor's dead. Like what?
It's
What are you doing by
a
bringing it back?
standalone sequel, apparently. So it's like, I guess it's just they're making another film about tornadoes, but now they give you that brand recognition that
I love
Twister.
the
also
idea that like,
brave.
someone totally disconnected from the original movie wanted to make a movie about an action movie about tornadoes, and they were like, the only good name for a movie about tornadoes has Twister in the title, and I can't use that. And so they had to get in touch with the people who own the rights for the first one. It's like, can we make a tangential sequel? Because I have to call this Twisters.
If that's the case, that actually makes me more interested in the film than it just being a legacy sequel to Twister.
So one of the probably like the big
Sorry, have either of you actually seen Twister?
no.
Yeah.
I got it out on Blu-ray when I on DVD when I went through a big Philip Seymour Hoffman phase, but I returned it to Fatso without watching it.
Fatso. Oh my gosh. So what's the one thing that you remember about that movie, AJ?
The cow.
The cow. The cow and the Twister is the only thing anyone ever... The only other thing I remember from it is when they, at the very end, they, like, Bill Paxton ties he and Helen Hunt, like, together with his belt. He, like, pulls out his belt and then, like, you know, ties it around this, like, metal pole in the ground. And basically, like, is holding on to his belt and holding on to Helen Hunt, and it's just like this big, and they go through, you know, the tornado
it's just
goes
winds,
over them.
Jeremy. It's not going to tear apart a belt.
But also, like, it's just wind. Is it going to tear apart this like small metal pole that's stuck into the ground, like?
Or these humans that are basically just flesh and bone, you know?
But all I'm saying is that, like, forecasts to the end of the year of the, you know, when we do the pod, if there is not a cow that gets into and somehow, or some kind of livestock inside of a Twister, I will pay you both $5.
Nice.
Well, that's the bet of the year. Presumably, there will be multiple cows in multiple tornadoes if the title is...
At least two, yeah. Before we move on, just wanted to note that a film that was announced between the two podcasts we're doing is that there's Megamind is getting a sequel without Will Ferrell, but Will Ferrell is the villain in Despicable Me 4, so there is a Will Ferrell villain animated movie coming out this year.
Not
It's
only
just
that,
not the one
but
you think.
Megamind and Despicable Me were a twin movie situation. Like,
Yeah.
they both came out around the same time with the same basic premise.
Yeah.
Wow. Sad to see he's crossed the line.
Yeah. So yeah,
Illumination!
the probably like the big sort of release of the year, might be the highest grossing film of the year, is Deadpool 3, which we haven't, other than a few photos and a few set leaks, and I don't want to go into what's been leaked from just people seeing it on set, but there are a lot of clues as to what the plot could perhaps be based on some official casting that's come out. But obviously this is Deadpool, and Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine, which will be interesting to see, because they've been very much like, we're not ruining the legacy of Logan, don't worry. But it'll be interesting to see how they bring him back. It's been directed by Sean Levy, interestingly, who did Free Guy and He's like Sean Levy's a bit hit and miss, but it'll be interesting to see. He's very much. I see him as being kind of a like Rawson Marshall Thurber, who did like Skyscraper and San Andreas. Like he's like the Rock's guy for the Rock branded films that like Sean Levy has become that for Ryan Reynolds. It feels like
or the Christopher McQuarrie to Tom Cruise.
Yeah. That's another good one.
I think that this movie should be shaking in its boots, because I reckon the world is so unanimously ready to move on from this shit that as soon as this comes out, it's not going to be smarmy in a cool way. People are over it already now. I think people are going to hate this.
Interesting. I think people are going to love this.
I think the combo of
and that,
the
ladies
real
and gentlemen,
world,
is radio. One agrees, one disagrees.
The real world kind of friend, bromance between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, I think, is enough to get people interested into the theater.
Yeah,
I think it's a fun dynamic between the two of them just on Instagram. Yeah. And I think what people will want to see that on the big screen.
And if we've learned anything from like the last two Deadpool movies, is that like, Ryan Reynolds launched a marketing company because of how well the Deadpool marketing was done. And I like, the Marvels, we talked about how like it feels like part of the reason that bombed is that like this is a film that relied on the chemistry of its three leads, and due to the writer's strike you weren't getting these viral moments, and like I'm sure there would have been like so many clips of the three of them just having fun together. And I think that it's that sort of stuff, like you say, the bromance, the off-screen bromance between the two of them, and there'll be all these like crazy ads, I'm sure, that they're going to put out. It's rumored the first trailer might drop during the Super Bowl, which would make sense because it's the only Marvel release this year, so it's kind of like the big one.
All their money's going to be going into it.
Yeah.
Whatever money they have left.
Speaking of the strikes as well, this was one of the films that got very close to crossing the picket line for both strikes. And I heard that like Ryan Reynolds had taken to like scripting some of it as well because their writers were striking. There wasn't a writer on set, which people might not know is crucial for films like this, because you want a writer on set to be the big thing with joke we can insert here.
With this big thing is that so normally because like Quantum of Solace that was recorded, and so like Daniel Craig was having to come up with his dialogue because he's an actor, blah, 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 blah. But because Ryan Reynolds is actually a credited writer on Deadpool 3, he wasn't allowed to ad-lib on set because Hugh Jackman could ad-lib because he's not a credited writer, but famously a very ad-libby film, Ryan Reynolds wasn't allowed to because that would be crossing the picket line. I don't know. I haven't heard any reports that it like came close to crossing the picket line or anything like that. Editor Richard again. That's the writer's strike. No evidence whatsoever they quote unquote came close to crossing the picket line for the actor's strike.
That was just my half-baked memory of the information you just correctly said, which is good. I think it's good that we didn't just post this with false claims. I'm grateful for you.
It's a pretty bold claim to be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure these guys almost were like massive scabs. But the I mean, I am excited for this movie. I at the phase we're at now where we haven't, and I'm just mean in the year, like where we haven't seen any real material from this, I've got no reason to be against it other than, the comic booky multiversey bullshit. But like,
which is what the movie is absolutely going to be about, because it's trying to meld the Fox universe to the MCU.
I am curious as well if it's going to just be called Deadpool 3. I would imagine, or like, it seems like they'd want to call it like Deadpool versus Wolverine or something like that, because you'd want to put Wolverine in the title. But it seems like it's maybe some sort of an adaptation of Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which was actually the first comic book I ever owned. And it's there's a bit of nostalgia there for me with with that. It's a fun read. It was my introduction to Deadpool, and yeah, if it's like Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel universe is like the plot of the film, and it's reasonably standalone-ish, I can get behind that, because I mean, yeah, again, there's some leaks out there, but like some of the official ones is that like, well, the one main official one is that like Jennifer Garner is returning as Elektra.
I don't know. I just think this whole genre of movie peaked for about 6 months, 2 years ago, and anything after it has just been the same idea. And it's like, holy shit, you got this actor who played this role 20 years ago? How'd you do that? And it's just stopped being amazing anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care. They paid them money.
This is where I just want to go out and just say how proud I am of the fact that I never put up with this bullshit, and I'm on record saying that I hated it from the very beginning, and that anything that had multiverse in it, I was not in for it.
Including Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie you said you didn't enjoy. So
yeah,
you do stick to your word.
There were elements of it I did enjoy, but I just didn't really care about the whole multiverse of it all. It was just like, nah, shitty storytelling, plot device, hate it.
Damn.
God, it excited me when I was a teenager, though.
Nice that the rest of the world has caught up, you know?
so smart, Jeremy.
To kick off August, there's a film called Trap. It's our second Shyamalan film for the year. This one directed by Papa M. Night. It stars Josh Hartnett. As with most M. Night Shyamalan films, very little details until there's an
I
official
thought you
press
were going to
release.
say it stars Josh Hartnett, as with most M. Night Shyamalan films. I'm like, really? I don't think he's ever done one before.
Well, you just haven't been catching up with them. Borderlands. This is an interesting one. So there's a video game adaptation. It's got quite a good cast, but it's this was one that was filmed like quite a while ago.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, right?
Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. Jack Black is in it. Kevin Hart's in it. Bobby Lee's. Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett is in the Borderlands movie.
Yeah, there's a character
so long ago that every single actor involved, their like star has risen up the prestige ranks a couple of knots.
Yeah, Craig Mazin wrote the script.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
but like I'm pretty sure it's one of these things where like, because Eli Roth, who's directing it, which is an insane choice, he just made Thanksgiving. Which just announced it's getting a sequel. I think maybe coming out this year, actually. He's like I'm pretty sure he made all of Thanksgiving in between like rapping.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Borderlands and
It looks like that kind of movie. Yeah.
And the question will be, is this the film that's going to break the video game curse?
Well, if you had asked Richard, he would say no. The Super Mario movie broke that curse well and truly.
Shattered it.
But am I ever asking Richard this question? Or
no, you're asking me.
You.
I'm going to make an educated guess, Jeremy, that this movie will not be particularly well received by critics. I don't think
this will be like this year's Five Nights at Freddy's, where it's.
I think it might be a bit better than Five Nights at Freddy. Maybe more something like Detective Pikachu. That, like, you know how.
Nah, I reckon this is going to be like Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't think Eli Roth is a very good director.
Okay, no, well that was the main red flag. I also just I don't know much about Borderlands, but
it can be interesting.
To this kind of thing.
Horizon: An American Saga Chapter 2. All you Horizon heads will be heading back out to the cinema after 6 weeks.
So can you just tell me what's the colons and dashes in that title?
Horizon:
An
American Saga Chapter 2.
Awful!
Exclamation point!
Awful!
It is pretty funny that we took a break between these two from the last episode, because it's like, what was this again? If you're listening to this in a row, then all that information was just sent to you. But it's like set after the war this time?
Well, it says like the two movies are set before and after the Civil War. So my educated guess was that one would be before and two would be after. But
hey, I've got no reason to be cynical about this.
I think it's going to bomb. Just like
I think actually. Seeing the word American is maybe a good reason to be cynical about it, but conceptually, I'm like, all right, let's see.
All right, Costner, let's see.
Who, who, you got. Who are the actors attached to it?
Kevin Costner's directing it and starring in it.
Kevin Costner's directing it. Awful. Just awful. 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 Oh yes, yes, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think horizon is such a mediocre word for anything, right? It's just like
It's also the name of a video game franchise that's probably not going to be eclipsed by these two movies. So the most culturally relevant thing called Horizon will
not
probably still be
change.
the video game.
The hierarchy of the Horizon cinematic universe is about to change.
Horizon is a word that seems to say something, but it actually is nothing. Anyway.
The Horizon games are like ripe for a movie adaptation as well.
They're getting an HBO show or something like that, I'm pretty sure.
Are they actually, or are you just like...
I feel like I've heard that, like, because of how well The Last of Us did, they jumped into a bunch of other ones, and I think Horizon was one that they said was going to do well.
Yeah, nice TV series. Writing is underway as of this month. So... Yeah, Alien Romulus. This is directed by Fede Alvarez. It's set between Alien and Aliens. The cast is pretty much unknowns. And, yeah.
And is this the one or is this Noah Hawley's TV series that's going to ignore Prometheus and Covenant?
Yeah, this is set before Prometheus and Covenant, so...
True. Hey, look,
man. Oh, well,
no,
actually, it's not, because those are prequels. It's,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, they're set in the future?
Yeah.
No, they just came out later.
Yeah.
There have not been enough bad Alien movies to write this one off just yet.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I think Fede
I think
Alvarez is a director that's promise has waned a little bit.
Well, was it ever promising? I feel like...
Well, Evil Dead, it was like, oh my god, this guy's got such a, he gets it. And then did Don't Breathe. And, although Don't Breathe is supposed to be pretty decent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Girl in the Spider's Web was
That was the one where people started to know his name, I reckon, and because it was a poorly received film,
he also directed the reshoots of Chaos Walking. But yeah, like you say, no real reason to be anti this one. I think that it very much is sort of, I think, being advertised as like a return to form. We're going back to the crew of a space station stuck in with an alien and stuff. But yeah,
I mean, you say there's no reason to be anti this one, but I heard that they got very close to crossing the picket line during the writer's strike.
Well, moving on, we've got Kraven the Hunter is finally coming out.
Yeah. This looks... Everything I said about Madam Web last episode, copy and paste that here. This is just like, why the fuck? What the fuck? Just stop. You're embarrassing yourselves. If it's this obvious from your trailers how dog shit your superhero movies are going to be in a time when the genre is fading away anyway, why fucking bother? Aaron Taylor Johnson, I don't care. He's not an exciting actor to me. Yeah. I'm not excited to see him. Kraven, I think, similar to Venom, one of those Spider-Man villains that just doesn't make
ourselves there, Roger.
A lot of sense without Spider-Man in it, so...
It is, it's interesting as well. So another film that I've watched in the last week since we recorded is Argyle, which was mind-blowingly bad. And like, it was just a god-awful mess. But it's like, Madam Web comes out in 10 days from now. It's probably going to be worse. And then Kraven the Hunter, like, I'm more interested in Madam Web than I am Kraven the Hunter, because at least Madam Web, they're like fun actors.
At least Madam Web is sexy ladies that I can at least be like, they're sexy ladies. Yeah. Kraven the Hunter's just a sexy man. I don't care about sexy men. I couldn't give a shit.
September, which I just realized I've spelt wrong on our Google Doc. Fix that.
Oh my god, you wrote September?
Yeah, I did.
Everyone laugh.
And I...
This freaking idiots.
I owned up to my mistake, AJ. So, Beetlejuice. I've written Beetlejuice 2 here, but in the last couple of days, we've actually had a title confirmation that this is going to be called Beetlejuice, which, AJ, you have been so uncharacteristically silent on the title reveal for this. You didn't pop in the Discord when we were talking about it. I messaged you directly in our chat, which is now encrypted end to end, and said
such a funny pop like current events to reference, dude. I haven't talked out loud to anyone about the fact that Messenger is now encrypted. It's just something that I went, okay, I guess that's the thing now. And then haven't spoken aloud since it's happened. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That got me good.
I messaged you and said, how good is Beetlejuice as a title? And you didn't reply.
Do you want to know what, Richard?
I think you don't like it.
You broke the news to me. I missed it in the Discord.
Wow.
I just didn't see it anywhere. You just out of context said, Beetlejuice is such a good title for a sequel. And I just thought, like, Richard's thinking of titles to a Beetlejuice sequel, I guess. And then I saw a poster later on, which, as good as the poster is, I would not be surprised if it was a fake fan made.
It is official, but it looks fake as hell. I'm looking at the ticker tape with the release date.
Yeah.
But anyway, AJ, please reveal your thoughts on Beetlejuice as a title.
So it's good. Does it promise a Beetlejuice though? Because
that's my thought on it.
That's exactly. Is that the phrase isn't Beetlejuice. The phrase is 3 times. So,
but it's like, are you brave enough to say it a third time?
Here's okay. I think a triple Beetlejuice would be a great title for a third film in the series. But I wonder if you're shooting your Beetlejuice too early by doing it for the second one.
Right, but this is the guy, though, ladies and gentlemen, that thinks that Bad Boys for Life is a fine title for the third film.
It's not a 4 in the title. No one gives a shit about Batman Forever being the third in that canon.
I'm just
That's
asking
such a
questions.
good point, AJ. That's
no
a
one
very
gave
well
a
made
shit,
point.
man. And it's because puns are bad and evil.
Oh
and
my god!
Just because something
AJ
has the word "for" in it.
loves puns. AJ actually fucking loves puns. AJ loves puns more than anyone I know in practice. But are you asking about puns? He'll tell you how much he hates them.
I worked this out recently because I got a very similar thing happened to me on set of a $1 genre film where the entire cast and crew, when I said I didn't like puns, turned round to me, guffawed, and pointed out that the film we were shooting's title was a pun.
Yeah.
And all that shit. So I concede that obviously in my mind it's wordplay, but puns fall under wordplay.
That's so
what
stupid.
I will say, no, I agree, Richard.
No,
You're not better than me.
I don't like puns. I'm actually a fan of wordplay. It's like
I'm
saying,
just saying,
no, I don't like movies. I like films.
It's just my back door into the explanation.
I don't like S&M in the bedroom, but I do like choke play.
What the fuck, Jeremy? No, I think it's not the pun that I hate. It's dad joke, lame, thought of it on the spot puns. The only good puns.
Mine are clever.
Are the what? Not mine.
Elevated, if
not
you will.
fucking mine. You pair of dipshits. Shut the fuck up. It is when it's easy. I resent being expected to laugh at a lame dad joke. I resent being expected to laugh at something like that. And unfortunately, most puns are delivered that way.
Yeah, how do you think we feel when you tell us the names of your films, AJ?
When we read UFO
I think you go, oh, that's clever enough.
It's called
not...
Prime Sinister, and then he looks at us like, yeah.
Here's the thing. You know what it is that my first love was portmanteaus. But portmanteaus are harder than puns. And so my gateway drug was portmanteaus, and then I just fell into puns because you come up with a pun.
I've heard you make a pun on the word portmanteau.
Really?
Yeah. It's about man toes or something in the port.
AJ, you're such a fan. You're such a fan of puns that you're.
That's terrible, Jerry. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That was. I actually think. Richard,
I now don't like puns either.
You should. I legitimately think, Richard, that you should edit out the joke and we just leave it a mystery what Jeremy said. And just let people know that it was so.
I'll put in a little editor's
that I had
note.
already said. I reckon bleep it out. I reckon the world. I think we've done
the
this
thing
before.
Is that
I think
Richard
this
has
has happened
announced.
before
Okay,
to Jeremy.
What the thing is though is that AJ's such a fan of portmanteaus. He's a portfanto.
Thank you very much. Can we please move on? I think Beetlejuice is a cool title. I don't think it will necessarily be a good film.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm guessing he's not going Hawaiian now.
When was Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian announced? Wasn't that
Like the 80s?
What before? When was the first one come out?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, Tim Burton's back, which is not a green flag in this case. Jenna Ortega's in it, which is like that tracks. That makes sense. She's a very Beetlejuician actress. She is an actress whose entire cultivated style feels like it was born out of whatever movement Beetlejuice started. So that's cool. Winona Ryder's back. Willem Dafoe
as a ghost detective who, in life, was a B-movie action star. Doesn't that just get you excited?
I think that was like
I feel like Tim Burton's involvement, if anything, is a black flag. Like, you know, just anything he does is like black flag. Yeah.
The fly.
It's a Jolly Roger. Yeah. The punk band.
And that concludes our summation of everything that's called Black Flag. We didn't mention the Assassin's Creed game.
Well, glad we got that. So, Transformers 1 is coming out.
The word 1.
Yeah.
Not the number.
Transformers O-N-E.
Yeah. Do you reckon, like, putting numbers in... Now, let me finish, because you're going to make fun of me before I finish.
Oh, I'm so ready to make fun of you.
Do you reckon... You know how, like, last year, you had both Fast X and Saw X, right? Which were the 10th entries in a franchise, and it was this
technically
weird little...
Fast was the 11th.
That's true. It was this weird little, like, consistency. One thing I'm noticing this year is a lot of numbers appearing in titles, and not just because they're sequels, Richard. That's not what I mean. I'm talking, like Transformers 1, Joker Folie à Deux, you know, like... there's Wicked Part 1. We've gone through American Saga.
Also,
Strangers Chapter 1, you know?
Yeah, it's also interesting as well that about the Saw X and Fast X is that, like, Fast X is the 11th film because the spin-off doesn't count, but so they called it X, and Saw X is the 10th film because the spin-off counts.
Exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Transformers 1, it's like explores the origin of Cybertron. There was like in 2015 there was this like big writers' room conference where they pitched a bunch of things, and this was one of them. And I think Rise of the Beast was also one. And so it's got Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, Scarlett Johansson as Elita 1, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, John Hamm as Sentinel Prime, and Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion.
This is a animated film,
yes,
correct?
Maybe, yeah.
And it is not like explicitly set in the same in the Bayverse.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, interesting. I mean, that certainly breathes life into my already tepid excitement for this film. I don't know. I think I'll need to see a trailer. Do you reckon it's going to be like Spider-Verse Ninja Turtles style animation?
Well, yeah, but why else would you do it? Do an animated film.
Yeah. That Transformers is a...
would suit that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's also Saw 11 after Saw 10 did so well this year. So, Saw heads rejoice. But in October, another film that's another one that's going to be really interesting to see how well it does. I think it's another the Marvels or like Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom situation where it's a sequel to $1 billion film, but I don't know if Joker Folie à Deux is going to have the same cultural impact. It probably won't be as go as under the radar as the Marvels or Aquaman 2, but I think we're probably going to struggle to see it reach the same heights of the first one.
Well, what it is that it was announced and went into production at a good time for a movie like this, and now after the Marvels, after Aquaman, it is now a bad time for a movie like this, so they committed to it. It committed to what was already like a shaky idea, because people were like, a sequel to Joker, but it works so well.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's surprising that Phoenix is back for this as well, because it kind of seems beneath him in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But then at the same time,
like,
it's like, that's the kind of thing that's like, well, fuck, maybe it's going to be good then, because...
Yeah, exactly. Yep, so what, Lady Gaga's in it, we've seen as Harley Quinn, we've seen some set photos where it
There's been an official reveal of what she looks, of her.
It looks pretty, they look very sexy, I thought, in that official reveal. They're like very close to each other, and I enjoy both of them as actors. I ultimately landed on did not like Joker, but this one is supposed to be a musical.
Which is interesting, because we probably won't know if
interesting.
it's a musical until we're actually sitting in the cinema, if they market it like they've been doing marketing musicals. Because it's like going into like, Wonka, Mean Girls, Dune 2, like all these things weren't advertised as musicals.
But
Isn't
Joker...
it going to be so interesting to look at the advertising and the marketing for Wicked? I mean, we'll get there, but like, man, that's going to be like, it's a good story and it's a follow up to Oz, kind of like a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. You know that film we all liked?
Yeah.
And then we returned to it was the original nostalgia sequel.
Had no idea that happened. Is Joker Folie à Deux the one example of a movie where hiding it that it's a musical would actually be a great move, would actually be a super funny idea? You know, like, I kind of wish I didn't know that ahead of time in a lot of ways.
I think that calling it a musical, I have a feeling that it's going to be diegetic music.
Like a John Carney film.
I think that Harley Quinn is going to be like a lounge singer kind of style sort of character, and so I'd imagine that they would. Saying it's a musical kind of implies that, you know, characters sing their innermost thoughts, like sort of randomly bursting into song. I don't think that that's probably where it's going to go. I think it's probably more going to be the character is a singer and has moments where they sing, kind of like Songbirds, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Which I think the music was handled really well in that. And I just think it's funny that the first movie was kind of like the sort of clarion call for, the boys.
Three tickets to Joker, please.
The follow-up is it's going to be a musical with Lady Gaga.
That's why I think a burst into song style musical is a much more interesting idea, and also like an idea that might actually win me over to this franchise as well. Though this is also directed by Todd Phillips, who I think is a dipshit. So I actually don't think he has it in him to do whatever zany promise is implied by announcing this is a musical. I do not believe Todd Phillips has the cojones to be able to actually deliver on what we're all thinking this. I
reckon it's. I'm picturing not with the same level of or like amount of music, but like Annette, that like all the songs in that are kind of weird and a lot of them are like almost like half sung and stuff like that, and like it's more about like music plays a big part in it, and obviously like Folie à Deux refers to like a shared delusion, and it's like a real psychological thing, and so I think that it's going to be more part of their delusion, and I think that the songs
Scrubs rules, like the Scrubs musical episode,
but I think it's going to be less like singing to the rafters, and I mean that'd be super interesting, but like I think it's going to be more on like the songs are going to be like City of Stars. I reckon that's going to be the level of music, not La La Land in total, just
Lady
specifically
Gaga, man.
Yeah, I reckon
Lady Gaga.
No, you're gonna get like slow-mo walking down the Joker steps, which set photos. I know I said I wouldn't spoil set photos of Deadpool 3, but like it shows both of them doing the Joker step dance, and they're gonna be singing fucking Gary Glitter again, I'm sure. Steve Coogan's in it.
Jukebox musical. Steve Coogan's in it,
and Brendan Gleeson.
I guess that's no more like weird than
Mark
Maron being in the first one. It's probably a similar role.
AJ, a film I know you're quite excited for because you already brought it up on a different podcast is Whitebird, A Wonder Story.
I just think this is the most insane marketed as a sequel movie ever. Not only is Wonder a movie that, A, hasn't dated very well, because I don't know what the thinking is these days around casting a person who does not have, disability as a person with a physical disability, but also it's just not it's a story, a spin-off about a character from that movie who was a spy in World War II or something. It's just so bizarre. It's got to be one of the most bizarre sequels ever made in terms of like its congruous nature to the first film.
Wow. Yeah. A couple of horror sequels, Smile 2, Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3, I'm not interested in the Terrifier films, but apparently the second one is like actually really good and the first one is just this fucking piece of garbage. But it seems like now with more budget and more attention, they'll be doing more of what they want. Smile 2, I'm not interested in at all.
I really let down by Smile 1, so not that interested in Smile 2. Terrifier 3, I reckon what it'll be is the first one's the shit horror movie. The second one, they got a budget, so they actually made something pretty iconic. And Terrifier 3 will be the we also got a budget, but lost what made the second one so good. And it's like, well, it looks impressive, but it's nowhere near as good as the second one.
Totally. Wolfman movie, another Universal Monsters. Getting a lot of those this year.
How many
Stop
Wolfman
trying to make this happen, Universal. Stop it.
I disagree.
No.
I think you can make it happen. They got roped down by trying to think of it as a cinematic universe, and The Invisible Man from a couple years ago, that was pretty good.
This is this is Lee Winnell again.
This is Lee Winnell. This will be good, Jeremy. This will actually probably be quite good.
Oh, hang on, no. So this isn't the Monsters universe. This like the King Kong and
No.
That's the legendary monster universe. This is
the legendary monster universe. No, and so this, and also I was thinking this was the like that horrible photo that they put out like when they cast Tom Cruise in The Mummy, and then they had like Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They have Javier Bardem as someone else, and like they've canned that, like it's all gone.
Yeah.
I mean, Russell Crowe did play Dr. Jekyll in The Mummy, but yeah.
Yes, but they didn't get his own standalone movie. But remember how they had that?
Yeah, I remember. But
the Dark Universe.
Dark Universe brand was revived this week. They've revived. they've shared a new logo for it. So there is some kind of planning going on.
There's still a Dark Universe world, or there's going to be at Universal Studios.
Okay, maybe that's.
Oh yes. Yeah, but if this is like sort of a standalone take on a character like the Invisible Man, but just sort of like, hey, use this mythical beast, the Wolfman, and make a cool story around it, I'm okay with that. I just don't want it to be a joined up thing. Yeah.
I feel like Ryan Gosling was cast in it, but then left the project.
Yeah, Christopher Abbott has taken over, who played Alfie in Poor Things. He's the last minute villain we didn't like.
Yeah, right.
Venom 3 in November.
I mean, it'll probably be the best of the. It'll be the best of the Sony Marvel Spider-Man movies this year, I think.
Probably
pretty easily. The Venom series is such a tragedy because I genuinely think Tom Hardy is actually really likable in them. And like the dynamic between Eddie and Venom is super likable. It's just everything surrounding those two elements are at best like uninteresting and at worst like really fucking stupid.
Yeah. It's going to be the directorial debut of Kelly Marcel, who she wrote Saving Mr. Banks, 50 Shades of Grey, and the first two Venom movies.
She wrote the first two.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she knows her Venom.
Promising.
Yeah, she knows her Venom.
It's going to have Juno Temple and Chiwetel Ejiofor are going to be in it.
Okay. Well, good on them.
Good for them.
I also will not watch that one.
We've got, heading into our Christmas films for the year, we've got Red One, which is the film that's, it's Dwayne Johnson as Santa, I think. No, J.K. Simmons is playing Santa, reprising his role from Klaus, I guess. But yeah, Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. It's like an action movie. Jake Kasdan directed it, who directed the Jumanji sequels and sex
okay.
tape. And yeah, it's like the movie. This is one that's been for like the last definitely in 2023, and I'm pretty sure in 2022 was like this might be coming out this year. I don't know, but yeah, it's coming out this year, and it's like Dwayne Johnson has been like, yeah, a new holiday franchise is beginning, and it's like the first one's not even out yet, dude. Like,
Don't say franchise before the first one's out. Is Hollywood learning nothing? Is Dwayne Johnson learning nothing?
I think he's incapable of learning anything.
Well, no, actually, he's going to be in the next Safdie Bros movie, I think.
he's signed on for an A24 film. I don't know if it's can that be the Safdie Boys have broken up actually.
Ah, true, yeah.
Isn't it amazing that, like, who would have guessed that, like, The Rock would be trying to imitate Dave Bautista's career?
Oh, so Benny Safdie's directing it, but it's yeah, so it's the Safdie Brothers broken up, but it is Benny is directing.
Right. Because, like, we say The Rock doesn't learn anything, Jeremy. I think that definitely looks to be true from the last few years. But he is doing an A24 film, which is something I think is actually an incredibly intelligent move for his career, is like actually try do something highbrow, because people tend to actually really like when actors who aren't highbrow try something highbrow. But he's also returning to the Fast and Furious franchise as well. So.
Yeah, and it is it's like it's an A24 film, like about a wrestler, so it's very much still playing into that. But it's like a good mix, scratch my back, scratch yours for A24 and Dwayne Johnson, because A24 has said, we kind of want to start making more marketable films to get the inflow, and then they can make their most mainstream marketable film, which will also be the artiest film Dwayne Johnson has done. Like, they're meeting in the middle.
Yeah. Exactly. And that film is called Red One. Am I correct?
We've got John Watts, who did the Spider-Man trilogy, has got a film coming out called Wolves, which is
Not
about...
Wolves?
No, Wolves. WOLFS. It's a psychological action thriller film starring and co-produced by George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and it's about two professional fixers who find themselves hired for the same job. And by fixer, I'm not talking about someone who just bloody fixes things.
Do we reckon that this is like what John Watts as a director is like, you can't recognize what his direction is because he's primarily done Marvel.
It's like you go to his IMDb page and it's like known for or like directorial trademarks. It's like has Spider-Man in it.
Yeah. So this will be probably the most important film of his career. This will be the one that like shows the world if he can do what the Russo brothers couldn't do.
With Cherry.
Like, yeah. Or The Grey Man, which has turned into a franchise.
The Greyer Man. Until a Greyer Man comes along.
The Black Man.
The Charcoal Man.
One I'm anticipating that AJ you will be anticipating is Gladiator 2 with Paul Mescal.
Paul Mescal's in it. Yeah, man. Ridley Scott's returning. I think Paul Mescal beat out Timothée Chalamet for the role as well. So look.
It's got Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Barry Keoghan.
Pascal's in it.
Of course he is.
Barry Keoghan.
It's a live-action film coming out in 2024. Of course it's got Pedro Pascal in it.
I mean, what are we thinking for Gladiator 2? It's obviously a Lego sequel, which they do not have the best reputation, but Ridley Scott's returning, and it's got a promising cast. Like,
he's playing that guy with like the solid black eyes from the first one. He's also like in Unbreakable. Yeah, that guy, that actor, that his eyes are like, they look like they're like solid black, and he's in Unbreakable and Split, Glass, and he's in Gladiator. Paul Mescal's playing that character,
like a younger version of that character.
No, that guy was a kid in the time.
Okay.
Spencer Treat Clark is the actor's name.
Well, now Spencer Treat Clark.
Ridley Scott has not had a great time of it, like in the last, I'd say, decade, maybe.
Yeah, he's been making Diddley Squat.
Well, didn't he make Prometheus?
Yeah. and Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
He's done quite a lot actually in the last decade.
Yeah,
But
but it's just like nothing. Like it's like the director of Gladiator Returns sounds a lot different to hey, you want to go see Ridley Scott's latest movie?
did you see the last Duel?
Duel?
Duel, Duel.
Oh, The Last Duel. No, I did not.
Fucking rocked, man. It was one of my favorite movies of 2020.
One.
Fucking 2 or 1 or whenever.
I watched his
literally
other
don't
2021
even-
film, House of Gucci.
I don't know anything about The Last Duel.
It's great. I think you'd like it. It's
What's
genius.
it about?
Oh, we
It's
don't need to
about-
get bogged down on this, Jeremy.
I'll tell you after the podcast.
Yeah, so
no, I
Gladiator
don't
2,
know.
it's an interesting one because it's I would have been more interested in Nick Cave's sequel where he gets resurrected and fights his way out of hell and shit.
Do you reckon there's a movie podcast in the world talking about the upcoming Gladiator 2 that doesn't have an aside to talk about the Nick Cave one? Because I feel like that's got to be one of the most beloved pieces of did you know movie trivia, nearly happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best one. That's the best example of a movie that nearly happened.
Yeah.
I would not have wanted to watch that movie, but I am keen to watch this movie.
Well, great segue,
I'm ready
Jeremy.
for it. I'm ready for a prestige kind of give me all the stars, young and old kind of. Let's do it.
It's
Give
gonna
me the
let's do it again.
swords. Give me the sandals.
Yeah,
I'm
but
in.
just those two. It'll be interesting to see how it.
No clothes whatsoever.
It'll be interesting to see if it manages to recapture the Oscar glory that the first one had as well.
Well, the same could be said
almost definitely not.
for Joker Folie à Deux,
True. All right, Jeremy, it's time for you to take center stage and
Woo!
pun
I'm ready.
intended. Sorry, AJ, because we're talking about an adaptation of a stage musical.
So fucking mad.
Wicked Part 1 is finally coming to our screens. It's been a long time in development hell because this is a film where it's like the rights holder for Wicked has put it off for a long time because he's like, well, people won't come to see the show if they can just watch the movie. But usually the inverse is what happens, that there's more interest in a show when a movie comes out of it, I believe.
Yeah.
And yet, can we please also note another Part 1 of the year? They're back, even though I thought we all decided we hated these. I thought we all decided they didn't make money. But despite that, Part 1 is back. Also, if Wicked, the movie, needs 2 parts to tell the story, how fucking long is the play? This seems insane.
Well, famously, it is a 2-act musical where there's an intermission in the middle. So
It's 2 hours
fucked,
45
AJ.
is the play.
No, so I look, I'll get to the 2-act thing in a second, but oh man, I'm excited about this. Wicked is my favorite musical of all time, and there's just so many good songs in it. It's funny, it is heart-wrenching, it's got good drama, action. There's a terrible character called Dr. Dillamond, which we'll just hopefully forget about. Whole subplot about animals
I'm
being
not seeing his name on the cast list.
They're not going to omit anything from this film, Jeremy. They've got to crank out 2 of these motherfuckers.
No. I'm just
There's
saying
going to be everything from
I'm
the
just saying
stage play.
as an audience, the audience just ignores Dr. Dillamond because he's just his one song is horrendous.
There's
so
at least
bad.
2 new songs apparently.
Well, yeah, they've got to go for best original song, of course. This is the problem whenever a musical gets adapted, is that they have to write a new song because they want to win the music side of things for the Oscars, and it's almost always terrible. But hey, maybe this one will be good. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they didn't get Lin-Manuel Miranda for this one.
So, yeah, well, Stephen Schwartz is actually still alive, so thank God. Okay, so I have followed this every single time there's an announcement of there's a movie being made. Oh, there's a movie being made. And there's always been dream casting and and for many years after Glee, Lea Michele, it was she would be she'd be an amazing Elphaba. And people were no, she'd be terrible. But funnily enough, she actually also had a whole thing where she wanted to do Funny Girl on Broadway. And the whole last season of Glee was all about her actually moving to New York, her character moving to New York, and leading a revival of Funny Girl on Broadway. And then a revival of Funny Girl on Broadway was done without Lea Michele, with a woman called Beanie Feldstein, and it was terrible because the musical is actually not very good, but also Beanie Feldstein was just the wrong casting completely, and the producers kind of recognized this. The ticket sales was just going through the floor, and so they just sort of like all of a sudden Beanie Feldstein was gone, and they were like, oh well, now we can bring in Lea Michele, and it literally just catapulted up to the top of box office sales in Broadway, and she just had the most golden run of anyone who's ever filled in as a cast replacement on Broadway. It was like people were traveling from around the world to see her do this. Anyway, so all that to say, I can't.
And so she's in Wicked?
No,
she's not in Wicked. And okay. I kind of feel like she proved the haters wrong with Funny Girl, because people were just like, oh, Lea Michele, she's so annoying, and there was the whole controversy around how she treated her castmates and was she potentially racist and all that sort of stuff.
Well, because also that Jane Lynch was in Funny Girl and left with, who was also in Glee, obviously, with Beanie Feldstein, and so as to not work with
because she's like, I won't work
Michele.
with Lea Michele again.
Yeah, I believe she was maybe going to cross the picket line as well.
No kidding.
So
why are we talking about Lea Michele?
Because she was kind of a dream casting for Elphaba for a long time, but people were like, no, she's just this
like
annoying
a mini
girl from
Idina
TV.
Menzel. Yeah.
And I still, there's a part of me that mourns the version of the Wicked movie that we could have had with her. However, Cynthia Erivo is cast as Elphaba, and I think that is phenomenal casting. Although a lot of the plot of Wicked centers around school, and Cynthia Erivo is quite far away from school age, and so hopefully the green makeup will do a really good job of kind of making her look right in the school. The really exciting thing for a lot of people is that Ariana Grande is cast as Glinda.
What do you think of that?
So Ariana Grande she got her start on Broadway, so she has her chops.
Incredible vocalist, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Ariana Grande is that after she went on Broadway, she then got into pop, and when she was in pop, she developed a whole sound that basically centered around not pronouncing any words at all. Yeah. And so, however, I've seen some leaked footage of her singing, and she's gone back to her full technique, amazing Broadway singing, and I am super excited.
Because there was a teaser shown to one of the CinemaCon things, which had a clip of Defying Gravity in it, and it sounded fucking incredible. Because Cynthia Erivo's, I hadn't heard her sing before, but she obviously can, because it's not only there's a difference between like being able to sing and being able to pull off Defying Gravity, like all the songs.
Well, I mean, Cynthia Erivo was part of the original cast of The Color Purple on Broadway, so she is herself, even though she's a film actress as well. She has Broadway experience, and so I am incredibly impressed with the casting that they've managed to fulfill kind of both the needs of like, we need movie actors / pop culture icons like Ariana Grande that will pull in people because they're big names, but they also have the singing chops to actually be able to do the work. And Wicked is the kind of musical that you cannot, I mean, even Les Mis, you can kind of slide in a bit, you don't need someone who's like Broadway level. You can't ever cast Russell Crowe, but you do need someone who like can sing. Whereas Wicked, those two main roles. Oh my gosh! Let's not go back. But these two roles, you just can't fudge them. The music, the singing is so stratospherically hard and iconic. You can't. So I'm super stoked with the casting. I've seen some. There's someone who like flew a drone over where they were filming, and my goodness, I'm excited about the shots they got. I mean, I shouldn't have seen them. It was very naughty, but like, it looks beautiful.
And so this will presumably split. This part one will end on Defying Gravity, right?
So so in the show, it's really funny because when I first saw Wicked, it was in 2009 in Sydney, and one of my flatmates I'd spent the year listening to the soundtrack, but really I'd only ever listened to the song Popular and Defying Gravity. And everything in me was like, Defying Gravity is the final song of the entire show. Like, it's just, she flies away, she's free, Defying Gravity, it's all done. And then I went and saw the show, and at the end of the first half, all of a sudden Defying Gravity comes on, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's probably like after about an hour and 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
And so it finishes, and I'm sitting there in my seat, and I'm like, wow, I would have thought there was an intermission, but man, that was a good show. And then it was like, this intermission will last for 20 minutes. Please be back in. I was like, there's more?
I've heard the second half is not as good, though.
Exactly. So this is the thing, is that like there's more is, well, there's really not that much more, because essentially the first half is everything that happened before the events of Wizard of Oz. And then there's Defying Gravity, when essentially she commits to the quote unquote Wicked Witch of the West is Elphaba, and she commits, okay, if you want me to be wicked, if you want to see me as wicked, then fine. You can use me as your Wicked Witch, and you can see me as that. I will just not care anymore. And so she flies off to
what there is or was,
yeah.
And
so the second act basically is it's before and after all the scenes where in Wizard of Oz the Wicked Witch encounters Dorothy or any one of like the Tin Man. And so it doesn't actually have any of the scenes that are in Wizard of Oz, but it's just sort of always after or before the key scenes in the movie. And so it's not that interesting. There is a couple of bangers of songs in the second half.
For good.
But they're going to have to work really hard to try and make the second movie something people are actually excited about. I have heard that apparently they are cutting the end of the first movie in the middle of Defying Gravity before they actually like finish it.
That's gonna be
what on earth?
I
can't be blue-balled like that.
Exactly. I was going to say, talk about a 2-year edge, like an
year.
absolute edge of a break. Anyway, that's enough of me talking about Wicked. I'm so sorry, but I'm very, very excited.
I get just based
good.
on what you saw, and I don't know if this is either the drone, like a leak, or if it's been officially announced, but is it using the same imagery from the original film?
Sorry, the original film or the Broadway?
The original
you mean
film.
Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the leak that I saw was of them filming the opening shot of where Glinda, like in the musical, Glinda comes in, and it's just after the Wicked Witch has been declared dead. And what's really interesting is that they are using the imagery of the Wizard of Oz because it was filmed in Munchkinland with like the sort of that spiraling yellow brick road coming out. And so it's Glinda coming in to all the citizens of Oz.
I was wondering if they would do like, this is our own interpretation of Oz, but it's like that it's so iconic. It's one of the most iconic locations in film history that you kind of have to use the thing.
And the thing is, if you're committing something to film, I think that you sort of, and give it, like, it's so iconic that you should just lean into it. You shouldn't try to create something that's better. You should actually just, and it looks like, I mean, they had footage of Ariana Grande in the sort of pink Glinda Good Witch of the West Good Witch dress. Unreal. It is massive. Like, it's kind of like Wizard of Oz on steroids sort of stuff. So look, early signs really good. I'm so on board for it.
This is another one I could see
preparing myself because I'm almost always disappointed by musicals, but maybe this one won't.
This is another one I could see getting just like a 15-second announcement teaser, one belted note at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, totally. I'm so interested and excited by this movie because similar to Hamilton, if you're not someone who goes to theater, like, all this movie has been a carrot on a string dangling just out of reach for probably 15 years of my life. I think I've known about Wicked as a concept, and hearing there's this really good musical called Wicked as a teenager and being like, oh, I would like to go see it, or I would like to see, and it's so inaccessible because you can't, know, and so I'm excied for a
but
for
let's
a movie
not
to
get
be
into this
finally coming
conversation
out.
because boy does it fire up some of our fans. The Lord of the Rings is getting a new film this year, The War of the Rohirrim.
This is also animated?
It's animated, yeah. and it's got Miranda Otto is playing Eowyn again. Brian Cox is playing Helm Hammerhead, a legendary king of Rohan. And this was supposed to come out in like April, and now it's moved to like mid-December. And mid-December is very much like blockbuster season or like awards season, and so it's very interesting that it was moved because of the writers' strike, but rather than just pushing it to next April, putting it to December feels like an interesting move from New Line, I guess. But
will it be Spider-Verse animation?
but yeah, I'm just curious that it's like they clearly are banking on this doing quite well. It's a prequel set 261 years before the Two Towers.
And
So,
yet
the
Eowyn
Two
is apparently
Towers
in it?
specifically?
Like, what?
Yeah, elves are old as fuck.
Eowyn is not an elf.
I don't know. I'm not a nerd.
Eowyn is a human being.
Okay, nerd.
Is she? Do you mean, isn't Eowyn Kate Blanchett's character?
No, that's
No. You're talking...
Eowyn is the I am no man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rando.
So
that's
she's the
the character it's about?
She's the daughter of Theoden King, so she's a human being. She's
Well,
probably
anyway,
just
all-
she's probably just narrating it, I reckon.
I
Can
think
I
so,
just
yeah.
say, the
Yeah,
problem
she's
here is
narrating.
that J.R.R. Tolkien named all his fucking characters the same thing, and not that I'm, like, especially unfamiliar with Lord of the Rings. The IP of Lord of the Rings, though, has, like, floundered since 2003, right? You got the Hobbit trilogy, you've got the super expensive TV show that everyone I know worked on, but no one I know watched.
It's so bad, man. It's so bad. I was so excited and
And from what I understand, the Amazon show is a contingent of like Amazon got the rights to make Lord of the Rings anything that's not a movie, I believe. I could be wrong. I heard they crossed the picket line as well, but let's whereas this is the original team, like this is a New Line production, so this is the people that own the rights to the movie Lord of the Rings are separate from the Amazon people. Like they're not the same teams. So this is them trying to do something with this incredibly valuable intellectual property they still own. And look, I think this is probably a better idea than the Hobbit trilogy, right? Like to do an animated film that's probably based in a lot of like history about from Middle Earth that they're adapting. This is, I think, what Tolkien would have wanted people to do with Lord of the Rings, more so than any of the other things that have been done with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not that I consider Tolkien to be some deity whose wants and desires must be met.
No, I mean, I think you're correct in the fact that Tolkien, created entire worlds and entire people groups and languages and, histories of gods and, elves and mythologies and stuff like that. And I mean, for people to actually take those things and use them and imagine as like basically use it as kind of a jumping off point with in a fully formed world with, with histories and stuff like that. Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of don't agree that it would be a better idea than the Hobbit. Agree that it's better than a
but
Hobbit
they fucked
trilogy.
the Hobbit. They fucked the Hobbit.
No. So they should never have made a Hobbit trilogy. They should have just made a Hobbit movie. So yes, I agree with you in some ways there. But I'm, to be honest, not looking forward to this movie. I just don't. I have no confidence in anyone now, like
Who's directing
adapting.
it?
Well, no, but also like I just don't have confidence in people these days being able to write stories that make sense in that world. Because I just haven't seen anyone do a convincing job of it. So if someone actually really enters in and has good craft in building something beautiful and meaningful and telling a good story, but man, I have to say, just like watching Rings of Power, it was just like, wow, does anyone know how to tell these stories anymore? Because it just is such a poor facsimile of something that's really deep and good.
Yeah, it's Kenji Kamiyama is the director who it's an anime film. It's not just animated. It's anime. But it was he did the Blade Runner Black Lotus anime series.
Those are cool, man. That's awesome. I genuinely, if I like the animation, that's what I'm holding out for. That'll be the thing that takes this from mild curiosity to must see for me. It doesn't have to be Spider-Verse animation, but I want it to be cool animation.
So, yeah, a few other films coming out in December. There's this new Karate Kid film, which has Daniel LaRusso and Jackie Chan in it. And they held an open casting call for Karate Kids anywhere in the world. But, yeah, they're presumably bridging the two canons.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, I assume you won't know this because it's not very interesting information, but the Karate Kid remake...
You have
do you remember
no
the
idea how much dull information I contain in my head.
So the Karate Kid... We did Karate Kid for Film Franchise Fortnights maybe a year ago or so. The Karate Kid remake, you remember when that came out with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith in 2012, maybe 10?
Oh, barely, but yeah, okay.
So that movie is not a remake, so to speak, of the original Karate Kid. It is a very similar story that is relocated to China, and he's referred to as the Karate Kid somewhat ironically because he's actually practicing Kung Fu in that movie.
Okay.
Right? It's like someone calls him the Karate Kid because they don't know the difference, and so that's why that movie's called that. The idea of merging those two universes together has got to be the least interesting universe merging I've ever heard. Because it's not like, as begrudged as I am to say, it's not like Deadpool, X-Men and the MCU where there is heavy chess pieces being thrown onto another board. It is not something people are so familiar with that it's God, how are they even going to do this? This is, most people won't remember or know anything about the 2010 Karate Kid movie.
Well, it's a famously hated film as well.
I don't think this is going to mean anything to anyone.
Well, but also it's running alongside Cobra Kai, which is a beloved thing that also stars Ralph Macchio. And so it's is it just, I went and had this other adventure, or is it an alternate timeline? Yeah, it's strange.
Many questions, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not particularly excited for it, to be honest.
None of which I care to see answered.
Yeah. So one film that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I'm actually cautiously optimistic for is Mufasa: The Lion King, directed by Barry Jenkins. Now, Mufasa, The Lion King, those things don't excite me. Barry Jenkins directing this is insane. And it's
this frustrating twist on the news that makes me go, God damn it, that's actually a pretty good director choice for a Lion King movie.
Yeah, so it's like a prequel/sequel. So it's Rafiki telling tales of young Mufasa and Taka, which is Scar's birth name, I think, to Kiara, who is the daughter of Simba and Nala, who was introduced in Simba's Pride, the animated sequel. So they're canonizing that character.
Interesting, because this is a live action. This is a prequel to the live action.
Canonizing actually has an original meaning that is very far away from the way you're using it.
Canonize.
That's right, everybody.
Saint Kiara.
Simba is the new pope.
I wasn't raised religious, so that was lost on me. I
think that what interests me most about this is that this is actually there is an outlier here, but for all intents and purposes, it is the first time a Disney live action remake has expanded to another movie at all, with the exception of Maleficent. But both of those Maleficent movies are not explicit remakes of Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. So this is the only time that they've actually taken one of their original live-action remakes and actually made, in this case, a prequel. But
oh, wait, sorry, this isn't going to be animated? It's going to be
correct.
The photorealistic, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's got Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen returning as well.
Right.
Well, that's who you'd get back. Here's a tangential question that I want to put out to the world that I've thought about for a number of years, but I'm not famous enough to get any interesting answers by tweeting it out. How many movie remakes are there that had a sequel, so a sequel to the remake, wherein the sequel to the remake adapted the sequel to the original film it was remaking? Because I don't think there has been one.
Editor Richard here again. AJ, there's actually this is a very hard question to Google an answer to, because the words sequel and remake are always just thrown around together. But I've found one example for you, and that is that the Steve Martin film Father of the Bride, which is a remake of a 1950 film, is followed by Father of the Bride Part 2, which is a remake of 1951's Father's Little Dividend, which is a sequel to Father of the Bride from 1950.
And I think this is another case of it not happening, where they're not making a Simba's Pride live-action remake. Though, as you pointed out, Richard, they are canonizing a character from it, which is, I find that statistically very interesting.
But yeah, it's like the fact that, I mean, I actually enjoyed the first one enough when I watched it. I didn't hate it. But the fact that it's like they've got an interesting enough story to tell that they want to make it, and Barry Jenkins is signing on for it, is like, well, sign me
as
up.
someone who famously doesn't watch any movies, can you just remind me who Barry Jenkins is? And
He
what he's
directed
done?
Moonlight.
Okay.
One of the
La La
greatest
Land?
movies of the
This
last
plot-
10 years.
This
La La
plot...
Land or
No,
Moonlight?
Jeremy.
No, Jeremy, move on. This plot is not that dissimilar from Moonlight, when you just explained it then. It is a story of a young man at presumably sort of anthology-style different points in his life.
They got
Could
3
this
different
be
lines
just-
to play him.
Yeah!
So, a film that we had a little bit of news about this week, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Jim Carrey coming out of his 18-month retirement to return. He announced after when the second one came out, he's like, yeah, I'm going away for a while. Like, unless there's some amazing script written in gold ink, I'll be going away. Everyone's like, guess it was Sonic 3, but I'm sure he was contracted at the obviously he was going to come back for Sonic 3, but I imagine
Well,
probably
his
nothing much after
character
that.
is kind of, from what I remember, Sonic 2 ends in a way in which Robotnik doesn't need to return. I don't think he gets killed. I can't remember.
I haven't
It
actually
does
watched
wrap
it, to be
up
fair.
the story.
But we've got there's Kristen Ritter was cast in this week, and people think she's going to be playing the cat bat thing.
Ah, yes. Yeah,
and then Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be in it, but I don't think we've got a cast for him yet.
Rumor has it it's Hayden Christensen, which is
Yeah.
kind of genius. And I never thought you could have told me that Hayden Christensen being rumored to be cast in something these days would excite me. But, this is kind of a great idea. Like, Shadow the Hedgehog, born in the to borrow a term you used once, Jeremy, the slipstream of Anakin Skywalker making edgy cool, right? Like, to cast
I
Anakin
said that?
Skywalker... You said slipstream one time.
Oh, okay. So I was just like,
and so I think that's kind of genius casting. I will say neither Sonic the Hedgehog movies I think are particularly good. I think they're like the first true made for kids movies, it feels like, in years. Just for me, just zero adult humor or anything, that I'm accustomed to with kids' films these days. But I don't know. I feel weird about the Sonic the Hedgehog series because it's like the whole thing is it's too sexy. No, the whole thing is post-pandemic, and it felt weird going to Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and being like, have I really lived through a 2-year break between sequels in a pandemic? Has the pandemic really been going for long enough now that Sonic the Hedgehog represents that for me.
Right, well, a damning indictment on the film there. Jordan Peele has a new film coming out on Christmas. No information about it yet, and we don't have a cast, we don't have a title or anything like that. I thought we could throw out fun actors we might want to see in a Jordan Peele film, and a quick, snappy title that it could be called.
Okay.
Wait. Wait.
Don't wait up.
No, wait.
WEIGT. GHT.
Wow. No, with the incorrect spelling, and you have to go see the movie to figure out why. I mean, I've been saying for a while, based on a tweet I saw, that I want to see Tim Robinson in a Jordan Peele film. Tim Heidecker is in Us, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. Let's see. I wrote down I wrote down actors that I want to work with the other day. A private list I will not reveal. But,
I really like that, though. I want to hear it.
I'll
That's
tell you
sweet.
after. There's only 2 actors on it, and I was going to reveal one of them, but it would just be because it's an actor I thought of, and not because I think he'd be necessarily a good fit for Jordan Peele. What about does anyone like? What about like Benny Safdie in a Jordan Peele film?
Yeah.
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 What about on a similar thought line there, Adam Sandler in a Jordan Peele film? Like, are there any of these comedy giants turned recent attempts at drama that we could see in something like
The
this?
Rock.
Because for sure, though, right? Like Batista in a Jordan Peele film, like Peele himself is a example of going from comedy to auteur drama.
Yeah.
So
to be honest though, I'm racking my brain, but I mean, everything Jordan Peele does is so far away from what I ever would have thought of doing, and yet somehow it's so much better than I would have thought of doing it. So I'm like, I don't know, who am I? Who am I to say what would be interesting for Jordan Peele to do? Because I think he's that's why I'm excited. Like, as soon as you said new Jordan Peele movie, don't have any details, I'm like, sweet, sign me up.
I reckon in the by the end of the month, I'm gonna guess we're gonna have a first teaser poster with just like cast and date and the title, and some bizarre image like a horse being sucked. Oh no, a cloud with a flag dangling out of it. Last officially dated film I think for the year is also on Christmas Day is Nosferatu, which is the Robert Eggers adaptation.
Eggers. Yeah, man, looking forward to this.
Is it specifically Nosferatu or is it Nosferatu?
Yeah, Richard,
what do you
said
want
wrong.
from? What do you want
Which
from
he'll
me, man?
resent you for the rest of your life for correcting.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a clever pun on like Nosferatu and a noose.
So the guy that did The Lighthouse and The Witch and The Northman is remaking Nosferatu with who's in it? Give us the cast list. It's an exciting cast.
Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok.
Yes.
Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp,
Yes.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, Willem Dafoe.
Isn't Anya Taylor-Joy in it? Or did she leave the project?
You're thinking of Aaron Taylor Johnson.
You're thinking of Emma Corrin.
It's funny that you listed that actor, someone who I specifically said did not excite me when he got
Yeah,
cast.
Because I mean,
Earlier in
Aaron
the
Taylor
episode.
Johnson is pretty consistently in things that I think are pretty good. So he at least has a good talent for picking good movies.
I'm looking forward to this. I really like Robert Eggers. I really like his enthusiasm around making movies where you can't understand
Where they're fucking boring.
It's brave. It's interesting.
Yeah,
I think
Anya
it's pretty
Taylor-Joy
cool.
dropped out.
Okay, that's a shame.
But yeah, I don't know. I get the hype of Robert Eggers. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not necessarily on the hype train.
Yeah,
watch
I
The
agree.
Witch. You
I
haven't
agree
seen
with
The
you,
Witch.
Richard.
Seen what
It's
I
like
haven't seen, yeah.
it's the whole. I think I said it when we talked about The Northman, but it was one of those movies where I was like, I recognize the skill and the singular vision that's going on here. I just don't really want to watch it.
Yeah, and I understand
it's
totally
hard.
why it appeals to people. Yeah,
Exactly. People are people are masochistic and they hate themselves, and so they want to put themselves watching something that hard to watch. It's not bad, it's not awful, it's very good and very talented, but no thank you.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Robert Eggers. I know.
it's one of those things that it's like, this is Bill Skarsgård in the lead role, Robert Eggers, Nosferatu. It's like a perfect marriage of all of those things. Like, it's
yeah.
for people that are into this is like, oh my god, yeah. So it's not the kind of thing I would try to take away from anyone necessarily. So now,
However, AJ, I will be taking it away from you now.
so. All right, now it's time to look at some films that we don't know that much about because they don't have dates yet. So That Christmas is a new film written by Richard Curtis, directed by Simon Otto, who worked on Ron's Gone Wrong, and I believe this is Locksmith Animation. So that Locksmith Animation's first film was Ron's Gone Wrong, and this is going to be their second one.
I
It's on Netflix.
love describing a director's previous work as not him being the director
it's
of
his directorial debut.
a movie no one saw,
Yeah.
right? Like,
So we don't have to say much about that, but I don't think this is confirmed as a film. I think it's going to be a short, but one of my most anticipated projects of the year is that over Christmas we are getting a new Wallace and Gromit. So excited for this.
nice.
The Peter Sallis who voiced Wallace and all of them, who was like in his late 90s when he died, passed away a few years ago now. But the guy that they've got who replaced him sounds incredible, sounds identical. They've been doing like ads on the YouTube channel and stuff.
Well, that's the thing when you've got like when you create a character with such an imitable voice, it's like it makes it very easy to recast when you pass on.
But yeah,
Like Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it's funny that it's like probably one of my 2 or 3 most anticipated things on this whole list. It's like I have no information about it.
It's one of your favorite things on this list, and it's going to be 17 minutes long.
Yeah. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. I think this comes out in July. They've Netflix actually just released in the last week their look ahead at all the films and TV shows they have coming out. I always find it super interesting because I remember in 2022 it was like it finished off with like the first shot of Glass Onion, and it was like, this is the big reveal that we've got. And then so when that thing came out again last year, I was like, what's going to be their big finale? And it was Rebel Moon. And this year it was Squid Game 2, which makes sense because that's one of the most successful properties they've had. But yeah, there's been a trailer for Axel F, I believe. But
this movie is absolutely titled Beverly Hills Cop Axel F because of Top Gun Maverick.
oh yeah,
It's the same thing. That's why they've called it that, I bet you.
yeah, that's a great call there. But yeah,
I've never seen anything to do with Beverly Hills Cop. Is Axel F the name of one of
Axel
the
Foley
characters?
is the main character.
Oh right, okay, cool.
And that's why Crazy Frog. That's why that song's called Axel F.
Because that's the theme song to Beverly Hills Cop.
Of
Is that it's a remix of the theme song.
Yes,
but Mark Malloy is directing this. Maybe he directed a TV series for Quibi about fake news, which reportedly influenced the 2016 election. But he replaced the Bad Boys for Life directors because they were going to be doing it, but they wanted to focus on Batgirl.
A movie that got literally thrown in the trash. How many will there be a Crazy Frog acknowledgement in this film, or will Crazy Frog have the resurgence he so fervently deserves?
Yeah, you love Crazy
out?
Frog and his little penis.
I
Don't you?
think Crazy Frog is an interesting thing to watch this far away from when he first came out, because the YouTube channel has been updated recently.
Yeah.
Music videos for Crazy Frog songs have come out recently, and it's like, what the fuck? Do you remember when he got a Twitter and then he released an NFT, and then you just saw this like isolated tweet from the Crazy Frog Twitter account that was like, while we understand that some people have issues with NFTs, the abuse that was hurled at our account is unacceptable. Like, what the hell is happening? This is Crazy Frog.
There was a new Crazy Frog video for Funny Song came out 2 months ago. But we
I didn't even know about that. That's how recent it is.
Yeah, it's more recent than you've been keeping up with. So there's Unfrosted, the Pop-Tart story.
Boy, did this need to come out 9 months ago, right?
Yeah. But so this is directed by Jerry Seinfeld, starring Jerry Seinfeld, his second movie since B-Movie. But it's got an all-star cast: Melissa McCarthy, Jim Gaffigan, Amy Schumer, James Marsden, Jack McBride, Thomas Lennon, Bobby Moynihan, Maria Bakalova, Max Greenfield, Bill Burr, Dan Levy, Christian Slater, Hugh Grant. But it's like Jerry Seinfeld has like a famous bit about Pop-Tarts, and if you've ever seen like Jerry Seinfeld, and there's interviews where he talks about this, that like, because obviously comedy is all about surprises and stuff, and people, they'll finish a tour and then throw out all of that material, especially once that becomes a special. But Jerry, especially because he's selling out like arenas and stuff, it's very much more like, yeah, there's new stuff, but you are also there to see the greatest hits. And his signature song, his Ocean Avenue, is his Pop-Tart bit. And essentially he talks about how like food was so boring until the Pop-Tart came out. Like breakfast, it revolutionized breakfast food. And so this is kind of like a comedic retelling somewhat based on the actual story of Pop-Tarts being created.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It does sound just like the overarching plot of an unmade season of Seinfeld, I think. Or Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know.
Or 30 Rock.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of Curb Your Enthusiasm, sorry, just Larry David and Elmo. Holy shit. All I need to say about it, but my goodness.
So Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, comes out, I believe, to Netflix later this year. Interestingly, though, this movie leaked on Twitter, the entire movie, about a week or two ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh wow,
check that out if you like Sandy Cheeks. But yeah, it was like this random file popped up, and people were like, "Oh, this is a SpongeBob movie," and then it's like, "This is the SpongeBob movie that doesn't come out for like months."
That hasn't been announced. I don't think.
It was already on the list here.
Okay.
But yeah.
But it's interesting that SpongeBob as a brand has persevered for so long that they've got to the point now where like they have to do shit with the side characters. Like there's a Patrick show.
Yeah, the Patrick Star Show. It's a
show.
talk show.
Yeah. I watched a review of it once that said it's functionally the same thing as like SpongeBob's a main character in it. Why did they make this a spin-off show?
I believe there was like an episode recently. It might have been an episode of SpongeBob, but it was about Bubble Bass, and it was the first episode to not have SpongeBob in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is the first movie to not have him in the title.
Yeah, wow.
Whatever's the world come to.
Yeah, so the SpongeBob's gone woke. The Old Guard 2, sequel to The Old Guard, finally. You guys remember The Old Guard?
Not at all,
No.
not even slightly.
in no way.
It was a Netflix film, came out in 2020. Charlize Theron. Generally positive reviews from critics.
Sorry. The old Charlize Theron was not the name I was expecting to be associated with that. I was thinking it was going to be like Old Dogs, Wild Hogs, like you get like, you know, 4 like grumpy old men actors who kind of
There's
don't
been
have
one
much of a
recently. It's called like Old Dads or something. It's got Bill
Paxton?
No, who's the dude from he was in
Bill Burr?
what's his name? Bill Burr, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
Do you like how I
sorry.
mean he's from and then just paused because what the fuck is Bill Burr in?
Well, he's going to be in the Pop
He's a comedian who's in his own specials.
He's in Breaking Bad.
That was what I was going to say, but I didn't think that would.
But yeah, The Old Guard. It's like a superhero adjacent film where it's like these immortal beings. They're like gods. It's based on a comic book, but it's getting a sequel. A film that, much to a lot of people's chagrin, was just taken off the release calendar in the last couple of weeks is Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's new film starring Robert Pattinson. There was a teaser for this like 2 years ago. And we've had not really any info since then. It's English language. Presumably
I'm excited.
Robert Pattinson's in it.
I'm looking
But yeah,
forward to it.
Mickey 17 is an expendable, a disposable employee on a human exposition sent to colonize the ice world, Niflheim.
Fuck yeah, man.
After
Fuck
one
yeah.
iteration
What the
dies,
hell?
a new body is regenerated with most of his memories intact. It stars Robert Pattinson, Stephen Yeun, Naomi Ackie, Toni Collette, Mark Ruffalo.
And presumably he's the 17th one.
You'd think so, yeah. Similar to Moon. But yeah, it was indefinitely just taken off the release schedule, and Godzilla X Kong took over the date for Warner Brothers. But it'll come out.
I mean, like for like.
Yeah.
Like for like, really.
It could just be one of those things that they're realizing, oh, maybe we've got more of a hit on our hands, so let's do an Oscar push at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, why you wouldn't plan for a Bong Joon... What's his name?
Bong Joon-ho, yeah.
Yeah, why you wouldn't plan for his film to come out during Oscar season, like whatever he does. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another director that I'm sure is going to be hoping for Oscar glory is Megalopolis, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. This is his passion project that he's been trying to get made for decades. And stars Adam Driver in the sort of main role. And Forrest Whitaker, Natalie Emmanuel, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Aubrey Plaza, Jason Schwartzman, Shia LaBeouf, Talia Shire, Chloe Feynman, Dustin Hoffman, Giancarlo Esposito. I
want it to be good so bad, but I just think it stinks of like this is going to be terrible, but I really want it to be good.
The first news of this was Rob Lowe mentioned Coppola talking about it with him in 1982. In an interview from 1982, he mentions it.
How long has it been since Coppola's made a film?
What was his last film? Didn't he make like something terrible as his last film? Twixt in 2011.
Well, I've never even heard of that. Like, I don't know.
He really fell off with after Jack.
All I will say is, like, it's cool that I'll be given an opportunity in my lifetime to see a Francis Ford Coppola like big swing in cinemas.
Well, because like a new was it One from the Heart? His other like big swing that failed. That was him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it seems like he's into the like I don't know, Megalopolis seems to be very much more that giant old Hollywood sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean the whole storyline is essentially like it focuses on the role of kind of architects and people trying to rebuild New York City after a sort of catastrophic event, like sort of dystopian future kind of thing, but it's focusing, like, basically Francis Ford Coppola specifically wants to make, like, a hopeful film about the future, and kind of about, the triumph of the human spirit and, people who can design beautiful and better ways of living. Etc.
Themes I've always associated with Francis Ford Coppola.
I know. Well, I think after Apocalypse Now, he's like, let's do something nice.
Interestingly, Mike Figgis, who directed Leaving Las Vegas, I think. Yeah. Directed a behind-the-scenes documentary filmed alongside Megalopolis. Wow. So, a new Hearts of Darkness, perhaps.
Fuck, it better be a good movie then, Megalopolis. It's pretty embarrassing to release a documentary about a movie everyone hated.
Oh, I mean, if the production was bad enough, then yeah. Steve McQueen, another director with some great films, has a movie called Blitz coming out. Not
immediately on my anticipated list. He is
Steve McQueen, who did Shame, Hunger, 12 Years a Slave, and the super underrated Widows. Widows was so good.
He also has a 4-hour documentary called Occupied City that's been floating around festivals the past year.
Yeah. Small Axe as well apparently was really good. But yeah, no, super interested to see Blitz. Oh, yeah, here we go. Stars Saoirse Ronan, Harris Dickinson, Stephen Graham, Erin Kellyman. Can't see any real info on that. But
Saoirse Ronan is who I'd want to see in a Jordan Peele film. There we go. I knew one would pop up.
I mean, just Blitz. Is it? I'm wondering if it's set in the Blitz in London and during World War II.
Yeah.
And will it feature the Yeah Yeah Yeahs song?
It's got Paul Weller from The Jam in it. Juror Number 2, new film from Clint Eastwood, about a juror played by Nicholas Hoult, who slowly comes to realize he may be at fault for the victim's death.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's a cool premise. It's filling out the rest of the jurors. You've got Tony Collette, Zoe Dutch, Kiefer Sutherland, Gabriel Basso, Leslie Gibb, Chris Messina, J.K. Simmons, Amy Aquino, Adrian Seymour, Cedric Yarbrough, who's Cedric the Entertainer, is he? No. Shikako Fukuyama and Onyx Serrano. Okay, Cedric Yarbrough is a different person.
Nice. I mean, I don't think
he's playing Toucan Sam in Unfrosted the Pop-Tart Story as well.
I don't know if I've ever seen a Clint Eastwood directed film, but I do know he has 2 threesomes in the movie The Mule.
Yeah, he does.
He directed.
He's I think it's been coming out for a while because he was going to I thought he was retiring a few times, or like this is going to be his last film, but because
he's like 100 years old.
He's 93.
That's not that far away.
That's 93 is an insane age to be. But he did like Richard Jewell was recent.
Yeah.
American Sniper, Invictus.
Juror
Changing.
number 2, also a movie featuring a number in its title. That's
Not a sequel. Yeah. Maxine, MAXXXINE, the new Ty West film with Mia Goth, who apparently like abused an extra.
Kicked someone?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I would be excited about this if I'd seen X or Pearl, but maybe one day I'll be excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Mia Goth is dating like Shia LaBeouf, I think. Or they're married. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Of course she's fucking kicking extras. So few, and then we've got new films from filmmakers that all or some of us like. Maybe my most anticipated film of the year is a new film from Don Hertzfeldt, one of my favorite creators. It's just called Me. He announced it on Twitter.
This will be cool.
Not too long ago. Yeah, very exciting. He also said that he's doing a collaboration with Ari Aster for a new movie, which is not Me. There's a different film.
Wow, that's a match made in heaven. I think that Beau is Afraid is very comparable to It's Such a Wonderful Day. I think they're very, very similar films.
Interesting. Because you said I would hate that Beau is Afraid.
I think you want to hate Beau is Afraid.
I do. I would love to hate it.
If you opened your heart to it, you would see a lot of similarities to it. It's such a beautiful
But yeah,
day.
he just tweeted on December 28th, I am happy to report my next film, Me, will at long last be released next year. And yeah, then he retweeted something about Ari Aster collaboration and said, no, Me is something else. If you don't know Don Hertzfeldt, he's an animator. He made some short films you might recognize from early internet days, but he also made one of my favorite films of all time called It's Such a Beautiful Day. Celine Song, who released Past Lives, one of my favorite films of 2023, has a new film called Materialists coming out. Not a lot of info about. When I interviewed her, I tried to get some information, and she was very coy about it. But working with A24 again. Kinds of Kindness. This is Yorgos Lanthimos has another film coming out. Stars Margaret Qualley, Emma Stone, and Willem Dafoe. So
I'd love to see Margaret Qualley take the centre stage of a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. I was delighted to see her in Poor Things and did briefly wonder if she would have been better cast as the main character than Emma Stone. But Emma Stone was pretty good in it as well. So.
Yeah, Emma Stone famously pretty good in Poor Things. So Lanthimos has described Kinds of Kindness as a contemporary film set in the US, 3 different stories with 4 or 5 actors who play one part in each story. Interesting. It had a different title.
One of those babies.
But yeah. Finally, this is coming to Netflix at some point. The Hitman, which is Richard Linklater's new film, which stars Glenn Powell as a hitman, and it was like doing the I think it might should just be called Hitman, but doing the rounds at the same time as The Killer, and it's like, oh, these are very similar films.
I heard this one's based loosely on a true story as well.
Yeah, apparently this one's a professor moonlighting as a hitman of sorts for a city police department descends into dangerous, dubious territory when he finds himself attracted to a woman who enlists his services. But yeah, apparently...
Didn't Glenn Powell write it as well?
Oh, man, you're making me do a lot of research here, AJ.
And didn't it nearly cross the picket line?
Let's see. Based on Hitman by... Oh, yeah, Richard Linklater and Glenn Powell wrote it. Based on Hitman by Skip Hollandsworth.
He sure does.
Yeah, but apparently it's a lot more like optimistic. It's got really good reviews. And
Nice.
It's been called one of the most purely entertaining films of Linklater's career. And he made School of Rock, so...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm sure because School of Rock is such an outlier in his filmography, I'm sure it's like, well, except School of Rock, of course.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's it, guys. What are we thinking? What is everyone most anticipating for 2024 overall?
I mean, it's still June. It's still June. It's got to be. But then also Wicked. So I've got a really great like mid-early and then last part of the year coming up. Really excited. Although I have to say, I've been thinking as we've been talking, what on earth is Gemma going to watch this year? There's like literally not a single Gemma film that we've talked about.
Oh my
no
God.
Downton Abbeys, no,
She
nothing.
won't be into Wicked?
I mean, she'll go with me, but she's not super stoked about it.
Yeah.
This is where I reveal I actually know very little about your wife as a person or her tastes or anything like that.
Come on. If you had to, like, you know what a Gemma movie is.
I know movies you've said are Gemma movies. I don't know if I could pick one.
Did you know that Paul Mescal took over the lead role in the Merrily We Roll Along adaptation that Richard Linklater is directing over like 20 years? Because the original actor beat his wife.
Wow.
After they'd already started shooting,
note,
and then they had to be like, well, the first 3 years of this don't count then, I guess.
Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah, you're really taking a bet on someone's character.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say my most anticipated is probably still Furiosa, but I think the likes of Jordan Peele's new film or Nosferatu will rank quite highly for me as well. What about you, Richard? What are you thinking?
Don Hertzfeldt, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And Wallace and Gromit.
Nice. Well, let us know, everybody, on the Discord or in the comments or wherever, what you feel is your most excited, most anticipated film. What film will you watch in 2024? Let us know. And if you enjoyed this gaggle of podcasts from this gaggle of guys, then please do consider.
You've just
supporting the
canonized
podcast.
my joke from the start, meaning I have to cut.
I'm
have
pretty
to choose.
gutted, to be fair.
Then you can like us on Instagram and Twitter and etc. etc. Join our Discord where you can discuss with us. And if you want to donate, you can do that at patreon.com/cultpopture, where you get to give us something to talk about in the post-credit scene coming at you after this music ends. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to do this year on year with you. I feel like it gives me a great handle for what I should expect to maybe see in the year coming up. And we'll see end of next year or start of next year. We'll look back at this list and laugh at the films we all said we were excited about that none of us saw. It's inevitable. None of us will see Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie.
To be honest, Ivy just watched SpongeBob for the first time. She loved it, so I may see it.
Nice.
Watch this space.
Report back. Welcome along to the post-credits scene. This is a segment where at the end of each episode, if you donate $5 or more over at patreon.com/cultpopture, you get to give us something to discuss in the post-credits scene, which is this. Richard, who's it from and what is it?
Today's comes to us from Luke Grierson, who says, how much do you value style and substance in a film, or any art for that matter?
Style and substance.
I think it's like in general, I would say, substance is the thing, but there are certain things like when the style is just that good, and like Mad Max Mad Max Fury Road has like great substance, but that's a film that I showed to my parents, and they were kind of like putting on, they're like, I don't know if I'll be into this kind of thing, but it's like just the style of that movie is that good that it overrides need for substance, really.
I think that's a fantastic example, because really, like, the substance is they go somewhere, find out that the somewhere they're going isn't actually where they wanted to go. They retrace their steps to go back to where they were in the beginning. Like, that fundamentally...
I think there's a bit more fucking substance to Mad Max Fury Road.
There's a lot of character. There's a lot of like good
Feminism
story beats for all the characters. But fundamentally, the style is the thing that stays with you, and the filmmaking that you go about in that film is the directorial vision is the style and the way it's shot, the way it's edited.
It's interesting because it's like I would generally say, substance is more important. But if you give me a film with fantastic substance and zero style, that like I'm not going to enjoy that as much as a film that has no substance but incredible style.
What's an example of a film with no style and all substance?
So Doubt. I think any film that
Doubt's
you
so
can think
good,
of that... No, but it is really good, right? But the thing is that it is boring to watch. So there's films, especially like plays that transfer onto film, there are a lot of really good performances in them, right? So the actors have a lot to do, but the actual filmmaking, a lot of it is just stick a camera in a room and like watch. The
Style's
characters do what
harder
they
to
do
define because even something like Doubt, like the way it plays out with like long shots and letting these actors like perform is still in a way a style.
You're right. I mean, I think Doubt's... Sorry, I was basically just trying to reach for the first film I could think of that was a direct
Adaptation
of a
No,
very...
but I get what you mean, but it's like...
Actually, August Osage County, I think, is a better example of that, where you have a lot of substance and a meaty storyline with lots of great stuff for the actors to do, but... very unexciting.
But I mean, even
as a film.
taking away from film, like if you go and watch like a community theater production of an incredible play, and like especially like with theater, it's like with theater, the script, the text is the work of art, whereas in film, it's the film is the work of art. That like if you see a very dull production of that, you're still not getting anything out of it. But if you see like people just having fun in this bright colors, at least you've got that, you know.
So my example for the film that most charmed me through style is Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh yeah, big Army Hammer guy.
Honestly, what's that?
Big Army Hammer guy.
Oh yes, yeah.
You forget, Jeremy, that I have to make you sound bigoted.
Yeah, that's right. Problematic, but yeah, I could watch Man from U.N.C.L.E. again almost any day. It is just so beautiful. The soundtrack is just so just everything's on point with that movie, and the way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it feels. It's just so much fun. There's not a lot that's unique about the story. It's just a regular old spy story. You know, yes, there's two spies against each other and stuff like that. The style of it is really what makes it sing and why I want to return to it. And I would argue that like something like the style of the Harry Potter films, you know, is what makes it so beloved. If
the
a
first
really
few.
Great book, if a really great book has a terrible filmmaker like trying to adapt it, it just doesn't go anywhere.
I would say that to sort of bring it all home, I would say that a film doesn't have to have style to be good if the substance is great. But a film that is all style and no substance, or bad substance, low quality substance, they don't tend to do very well. Looking at your Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets kind of area, right? But I will say that if you have really good style, your substance can be fine. And that's good enough. One of my favorite TV shows, Pushing Daisies, I would say, is not mind-blowing in its substance, but its style is so beautiful and addictive that I actually don't want it to do anything too different, because the style is kind of what I'm there for.
It elevates the material.
Yeah.